Picture this. Someone locks eyes with you across the room. Heart races, chemistry explodes. You think, this is it, the real thing. But weeks later, ghosted, confused, heartbroken. Why do some people crash into your life like a meteor, only to burn out just as fast? You've probably blamed timing, red flags, or they just weren't ready. But what if the truth runs deeper, way beneath the surface of texts, dates, and late-night talks? Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychologist who mapped the hidden continents of the human mind, had a radical answer. People don't fall in love with you. They fall in love with what you represent in their unconscious. And it boils down to just two unshakable reasons. Forces so powerful, they override logic, looks, or anything you say on a first date. We're about to pull back the curtain on the invisible script, running every romance you've ever had. By the end, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. Stick around, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive straight into the depths. The invisible architecture of love. We love to romanticize love as pure magic, a lightning bolt from the blue. But Jung saw something far more structured, a hidden blueprint etched into every human psyche. What feels like fate? It's actually your unconscious talking to theirs, trading secrets neither of you signed up for. Think about the last person who swept you off your feet. Was it their laugh, their ambition, their style, or was it something you couldn't name? A pull that felt ancient, almost predestined, that magnetic force that made you check your phone every 30 seconds, that made their name light up your nervous system like a pinball machine? That's the unconscious at work, using love as its favorite delivery system. Here's the kicker. Every intense connection follows the same invisible architecture. Years of buried emotions, childhood echoes, unmet longings, and silent yearnings create a silent map inside us. It's drawn in invisible ink, written in a language we forgot we spoke. When someone steps onto that map, boom, instant fireworks. Not random, not superficial, engineered by the psyche itself. Jung spent decades studying this phenomenon, diving into dreams, myths, and the deepest recesses of human behavior. What he discovered changed everything we thought we knew about attraction. The conscious mind, the part that makes grocery lists and remembers appointments, thinks it's choosing partners based on compatibility, shared interests, or physical appeal. Meanwhile, the unconscious is running an entirely different program, one infinitely more powerful. This program doesn't care about your checklist. It doesn't care if they're your type or if they meet your standards. It operates on a frequency beyond rational thought, responding to symbolic resonance, archetypal patterns, and unfinished psychological business that might stretch back generations. Reason number one, you embody a piece they're missing. Let's break it down. Inside every one of us lives a gallery of repressed images, parts of ourselves we've ignored, denied, or never developed. Maybe you grew up in a home where emotions were taboo, so you became the stoic rock. Feelings, weakness. Vulnerability, dangerous. You learned to lock it all away, building walls so thick you forgot what was behind them. Then you meet someone wildly expressive, laughing without apology, crying at movies, dancing like nobody's watching. They wear their heart on their sleeve like it's a badge of honor. Suddenly you're obsessed. You can't stop thinking about them. You make excuses to be near them. Your friends notice you light up when they enter the room. Why? Because they're living the freedom you locked away. You're not falling for them. You're falling for the version of yourself you never dared to become. They're a walking permission slip for your own evolution. They're demonstrating that it's safe to feel, safe to express, safe to be fully alive in your emotions. Flip the script. Someone falls for you the same way. You're not the prize. You're the mirror. That quiet guy who never speaks up, he's mesmerized by your confidence because it's the voice he silenced in childhood. Maybe his parents punished him for being too loud, too opinionated, too much. Now here you are, unapologetically taking up space, and his unconscious is screaming, "That! I want that!" The overplanner, dazzled by your spontaneity, same deal. She's lived her entire life in spreadsheets, terrified of making the wrong move, paralyzed by analysis. You show up late, change plans on a whim, book last-minute trips, and somehow it all works out. To her, you're not chaotic, you're liberated. You're proof that life can be lived off script. Opposites don't just attract, they complete unfinished business. Jung called this the principle of compensation. The psyche constantly seeks balance, wholeness, integration. If you've overdeveloped one side of your personality, you'll unconsciously hunt for someone who carries the opposite. The introvert craves the extrovert's social ease. The logical thinker falls for the intuitive dreamer. The rebel is drawn to the rule follower. But here's where it gets dangerous. If they don't realize what's happening, they'll cling to you like a life raft. You make me feel alive, they say. It sounds romantic. It feels profound. Translation, you're carrying my potential, and I'm terrified to pick it up myself. The relationship becomes parasitic instead of symbiotic. They're not growing toward wholeness. They're outsourcing it. They need you to be spontaneous, so they don't have to risk it. They need you to be confident, so they don't have to do the terrifying work of building their own voice. The second you show human flaws, mood swings, boundaries, a bad hair day, your own insecurities, their fantasy cracks. The love wasn't built on you. It was built on a projection. You were never a person to them. You were a function, a missing organ, a prosthetic for their incomplete psyche. The projection trap projection is the psyche's favorite magic trick. We take our inner gold or inner garbage and paste it onto someone else. Suddenly they're perfect or perfectly toxic. We see in them what we refuse to see in ourselves, whether divine or demonic. The rational falls for the dreamer because they've murdered their own imagination in the name of practicality. The control freak worships the chaos agent because they've strangled their own wildness. It feels cosmic, but it's just unfinished homework from the soul. This is why new love feels like a drug. You're not just experiencing attraction, you're experiencing reunion with lost parts of yourself. Your psyche is celebrating like a prisoner who just tasted freedom. Of course it's intoxicating. Of course you can't sleep. You're literally encountering yourself, refracted through another person's existence. Jung warned, until you own what you project, you'll keep dating your own blind spots. The relationship becomes a house of mirrors, dazzling at first, disorienting forever. You think you're seeing them clearly, but you're really seeing your own reflection, distorted and multiplied into infinity. Ever wonder why the passion fizzles? The mirror shatters when reality walks in. 3 months in, maybe 6, the projection can't hold. They're tired of being your savior, your muse, your missing piece. You're exhausted from carrying an image that was never really you. Both people wake up in bed with a stranger, wondering where the magic went. It didn't go anywhere. It was never there. Not in the way you thought. Pause for a second. If this is hitting home, smash that like button. Share this with the friends stuck in the same toxic cycle. And if you want more mind-bending breakdowns like this, subscribe and ring the bell. We drop truth bombs daily. Reason number 2, the Anima and Animus, your inner opposite. Now, reason number 2 takes us even deeper into Jung's vault. The Anima and Animus, the secret blueprints of masculine and feminine that live inside every one of us. This is where Jung's work gets mystical, almost mythological. But stay with me, because this explains why you've had chemistry with people who make zero logical sense. Gentlemen, meet your Anima, the inner woman you've carried since day one. She's not a stereotype. She's shaped by your mom, your first crush, myths, movies, every feminine archetype you've ever absorbed. She's the muse whispering creativity when you're stuck. She's the nurturer craving connection when you're isolated. She's the wild goddess demanding passion when life gets too orderly. She exists in your dreams. She shows up in the women who captivate you. She's the voice that says, feel more, when your head says, think more. Ladies, say hello to your Animus. The inner man, protector, thinker, warrior, visionary. He's forged from dad, heroes, leaders, the collective masculine energy swirling through culture. He's the part of you that wants to build, to defend, to conquer challenges, to think in structures and systems. He appears in your dreams as a guide, a stranger, sometimes multiple figures. He shows up in the men who arrest your attention. He's the voice that says, stand up when you want to shrink. These aren't preferences, they're archetypes, emotionally charged templates buried in the collective unconscious, that vast warehouse of human experience accumulated over millennia. One day, you meet someone who fits the mold like a key sliding into a lock you didn't know existed. Boom. Instant recognition. I've known you forever, you think, even though you met 5 minutes ago. People call it a soulmate. Jung called it Anima, Animus projection, and he knew it was both blessing and curse. That's the Animus spotting his queen, the Anima recognizing her knight. It feels like destiny because it is destiny of the psyche, not the stars. You're not seeing the person. You're seeing your inner image come to life, walking, talking, breathing in front of you. The archetypal collision. Picture this: a man raised by a critical father, always proving his worth, never quite measuring up. Achievement after achievement, but the approval never comes. He learns to be hard, competitive, self-reliant. Emotions, buried, vulnerability, a luxury he can't afford. He meets a woman who radiates gentle strength, intuitive wisdom, unconditional warmth. She sees him, really sees him, beneath the armor. His anima lights up like Christmas. Every word she speaks feels like medicine. Her presence is permission to exhale, to soften, to be human instead of a success machine. He's not in love with her. He's in love with the mother he never had, the softness he was never allowed, the acceptance that's been missing his entire life. She becomes his sanctuary, his therapist, his salvation. The weight of that, crushing, unsustainable. Or the woman starved for direction, surrounded by chaos. Maybe she grew up in an unstable home where she had to be the adult, the stabilizer, the one who held everything together. She learned to doubt her decisions, to second-guess every move, to float through life without an anchor. She locks onto a man with laser focus, unshakable logic, quiet authority. He doesn't waver, he doesn't panic, he's got a plan, and he executes. Her animus salutes. Suddenly he's her rock, her compass, her everything. She organizes her life around his certainty, builds her identity on his strength. Until he's human, until he doubts, until he admits he doesn't have all the answers, that he's scared too, that sometimes he's just faking the confidence. The archetype can't carry the weight of real life. When gods become human, that's the trap. Archetypes are gods, not partners. No mortal can play the role forever. The pedestal is always constructed from fantasy, and fantasy can't withstand the erosion of daily life, bad moods, financial stress, family drama, illness, or simple exhaustion. The pedestal crumbles. The fairy tale turns nightmare. Euphoria morphs into obsession, then resentment, then contempt. You changed, they accuse, hurt and betrayed. Truth, the projection changed. The human showed up. The person was always there, flawed, complex, inconsistent, but you couldn't see them through the glow of the archetype. Jung called these collisions synchronistic, meaningful coincidences orchestrated by the unconscious, not soulmates in the popular sense. Catalysts. They arrive precisely when your psyche is ready to level up, or ready to repeat old wounds until you learn the lesson. This is why patterns repeat. Ever notice how your exes share the same fatal flaw? Different faces, different jobs, different cities, but the same emotional unavailability, the same control issues, the same inability to commit. That's your animus or anima on repeat, waving a red flag disguised as butterflies. The universe isn't cruel. It's a relentless teacher. It will keep sending you the same test in different packaging until you pass, until you wake up, until you take responsibility for your unconscious patterns instead of blaming terrible luck or a broken dating pool. The alchemy of integration. But here's the plot twist Jung loved. These crashes aren't failures, they're initiations. Every heartbreak is a masterclass in integration. The person who obsessed over your confidence, they taught you to value your voice, to recognize your power, to see yourself through someone else's awe, the one who worshipped your chaos. They showed you the power of surrender, of trusting the flow, of valuing the spontaneous part of yourself you might have judged. Even the toxic ones, especially actually them, their shadow work in human form. They showed you where you abandon yourself, where you override your intuition, where you settle for crumbs because you don't believe you deserve the whole meal. Love becomes alchemy when you stop blaming and start mining. What did they trigger? What part of you lit up or shut down? What old wound reopened? What hidden strength emerged? That's the gold. That's the piece to bring home and integrate into your being. Individuation, Jung's term for becoming whole, demands you reclaim every projection. Stop outsourcing your missing parts to partners. Build them inside. The confident learn to be vulnerable. The emotional develop logic. The chaotic discover structure. The rigid find flow. The anima and animus stop fighting. They dance. This is the hardest work you'll ever do. It's easier to keep projecting, keep chasing, keep hoping the next person will finally complete you. But that's a child's fantasy. Adulthood, true psychological adulthood, means accepting that you are the missing piece. You always were. Suddenly relationships shift. You attract from overflow, not emptiness. You love because you choose, not because you need. The connection deepens because it's rooted in reality, not fantasy. You can handle disappointment because you're not depending on them to be perfect. You can offer support without martyring yourself because you're not trying to save them. Imagine dating someone who sees you. Flaws, fears, fire, and all, and chooses. Anyway, no pedestal, no crash. Just two whole humans co-creating, challenging each other, growing together, holding space for both the light and shadow. That's the prize on the other side of awareness, the path forward. But awareness isn't passive, it's active shadow hunting. Journal the patterns. Notice when you're idealizing someone. That's a red flag that projection is active. Therapy the wounds. Find the childhood moments when parts of you got locked away and lovingly, patiently bring them back. Meditate on the archetypes. Who is your anima? What does she look like, sound like, ask of you? Who is your animus? What does he demand, protect, build within you? Have conversations with them. Draw them. Write them letters. Ask the brutal questions. What do I project? What do I attract? Why? What part of me am I refusing to develop? What am I expecting partners to provide that I could provide for myself? The answers hurt, then they heal. Let's zoom out. Why does this matter in 2025 with apps swiping souls like Pokemon cards? Because we're drowning in surface, filters, facades. 5-minute meets that promise forever. Everyone's carefully curated, strategically lit, algorithmically optimized. Jung's wisdom is the antidote, a compass through the noise. Next time someone ghosts, don't chase. Reflect. What unfinished business did they mirror? What were you projecting onto them? What were you avoiding in yourself? Next time you obsess, pause. Is this love or projection? Are you seeing them, or are you seeing what you want to see? Are they fascinating because they're actually compatible, or because they're carrying something you've disowned? Next time you're tempted to fix someone, remember, you can't complete their puzzle. Only they can. Your job isn't to be their therapist, their parent, their savior. Your job is to be whole and to love them from that wholeness. Real love isn't blind. It's wide-eyed. It sees the human, messy, imperfect, evolving, and says, I choose you anyway. But you can't offer that until you've chosen yourself. Every repressed piece, every shadow corner, every divine spark, every embarrassing quirk, every shameful mistake. Solitude becomes your lab, silence your teacher. The anima whispers in dreams, the animus challenges in conflicts. Integrate, and you graduate from chasing love to embodying it. The final truth, final realization. People fall for you because you're a portal to their potential, their pain, their forgotten self. Honor that. It's sacred, it's powerful, but never carry it. You're not responsible for their growth. You can't force their awakening. You can't love them into wholeness. The greatest act of love, point them back to themselves. You're not the missing piece. You're the reminder that the piece was never missing, just buried, waiting patiently in the dark for permission to emerge. So the next time someone falls hard, smile. You just activated their awakening. And if you play it right, if you stay conscious, grounded, and committed to your own integration, you'll activate yours too. This is the secret Jung knew. Love is the greatest spiritual practice, not because it's comfortable, but because it shows us exactly where we're incomplete. Every attraction is a map, every heartbreak is a lesson, every relationship is a mirror held up by the universe asking, will you finally see? If this rewired your brain, drop a mind blown in the comments. Share your wildest projection story. No judgment, just growth. And if you're hungry for more Jungian fire, subscribe now. We're just getting started. Remember, the deepest love isn't found. It's forged inside first. See you in the shadows.